Hey guys, Jeremy Smith here, Citadel Development Services, and we're here today with our team that focuses a lot on 7 Brew coffee. And so, if you guys have been watching some of our content lately, you see a lot of 7 Brew coffee content. So we decided that we wanted to sit down and really talk about our relationship with 7 Brew. We started working with them a few years ago. Started out as kind of a modest engagement and has expanded to something that we're really, really proud of. And so we wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of download on what that looks like today. So to my right, I've got Howard here, all of our due diligence, entitlement work, permitting. So we're going to let him talk about that here in a second. To my left, we've got Dave Vega. That is our senior construction manager. Basically handles everything construction related on a day-to-day basis. To his left, we've got Kevin DeLuna. Kevin's one of our project managers that is on site a lot with the 7 Brews. And then last but not least, we've got Renee DeSalle, who is a construction manager for us that, we'll talk about some of the nuances on her role and how she's been successful with the 7 Brew projects. But I thought it was important to kind of start out and talk about the beginnings. And so about 4 years ago, or 5 years ago now, I might have that wrong, some friends of mine bought the concept. 7 Brew Coffee, as some of you guys know, was based out of Northwest Arkansas. And at that time, they bought the concept with the intention of scaling it and really growing it to a national brand. And so along the way, we started talking and ultimately, fortunately for us, found a way that we could engage and start adding value to their development process in particular. And what that looked like starting out was, we were a construction manager on several projects out on the East Coast. And so we helped find general contractors, qualified general contractors, run the bidding process, and then ultimately choosing a general contractor and then managing that through completion to a handoff to operations. And, we learned a lot kind of in those early days about not only 7 Brew, but, about the drive-through business. And so the relationship from there morphed into us getting really involved on the corporate side to help build out kind of the infrastructure and the platform that would allow franchisees to build stores really effectively and efficiently. And so we came in and started, building out networks of architects, civil engineers, sign companies, as well as modular builders. So another component we'll touch on a little bit is that most of 7 Brew's construction is all modular. And so again, we were real fortunate to be asked to get involved with the fabrication of the modular buildings with one of the manufacturers for 7 Brew. So we learned a lot there. And so, our involvement really looked like a partnership with corporate to help kind of build all the systems to allow a franchisee to come in, secure a location, and then get a store open really quickly. Now, again, it wasn't just us. We worked with a lot of talented people on the 7 Brew side, and it was a really, really great collaboration. And then from there, our involvement turned into being a general contractor. So we were asked by one of the franchisees to actually build one of the stores. And we did our first one in Longview, Texas, which Dave was a part of and would love to share some of his experiences with that. And so, we were still doing some of the construction management work. We were still working with corporate on developing processes and procedures. But then we also started acting as a general contractor and doing the work on site. And then that ran for a few months, and then we had the opportunity to help manage the design process into entitlement work, due diligence, and then the permitting, which we did for a number of clients. And that's when our team really started getting built up, specifically for the 7 Brew projects. And then, fast forward to today, we've got several really great engagements with franchisee groups where, depending on the client, we're managing basically everything from site selection all the way through, and we're handing off a set of keys to operations, and they start serving coffee. So again, we feel, very grateful to have been included in with this concept. And if you guys know about 7 Brew, which I'm sure a lot of you do now, they are one of the fastest growing franchise concepts in the country. especially in the restaurant space, especially in the drive-through space. And again, it's been our pleasure to be part of that and contribute to some of the success. So, again, we've got our team here that has been involved in the projects over the last kind of 2.5 years, and we just wanted to walk through and talk about, what have we learned, what have we been successful at. There's been a lot of challenges along the way. We'll talk about those, and then talk about kind of what the future is, and how can we apply all that knowledge and experience to other groups that want to grow and scale a concept like this. So starting off, with kind of when we engage on phase one, again, Howard, that's kind of your realm now of dealing with phase one. What has been some of the big kind of takeaways and experiences you've had over the last few months dealing with, the design process, dealing with permitting, dealing with, working with some of the municipalities?
Right. Well, one of the big takeaways is that there are several aspects of due diligence that if you don't do it right up front, it's going to cost the customer later. And what I'm talking about are doing things like test fits, making sure that the site is actually developable in an economic way. And so there's many different due diligence points that we have to cover to make sure that the site really is going to work for them. So we'll go through multiple test fits, and we'll make sure that there aren't any bad problems hiding under those rocks out there. And that in the long run makes the whole process smoother. Yeah. So that, and the other thing is that a big takeaway is that human interaction still really does make a difference. When things get stuck in a bureaucracy, which they almost always do, sometimes you just have to get in your car and drive a couple hundred miles and go talk to those people and make sure that they understand what you want and is there anything else I can do to help you, sir? Yeah. And magically that usually works. Yeah. So those would be some of the takeaways I've had so far.
Yeah. A lot of the projects that we do are here in Texas, and a lot of the projects are in big DMAs or big metroplexes like Houston and Austin and San Antonio. And so those places, here in Texas are really busy. And so our experience has been interesting where we go into a big city like Houston, there's a lot of different jurisdictions that we have to go through to get permitting, but they're busy. We're not, our project coming through for a 7 Brew is not the only one on their desk, right? So a lot of times it's, there's a lot of people want to be in these areas, these markets. And so there's a lot of new development going on. So, we're fighting to get attention. We're fighting to kind of stay at the top of the stack. And we're fighting to move that through the whole process as fast as possible. And, for us, when you look at that life cycle of a project, the permitting side is one of the main ones that we don't have a lot of control over.
Yeah, right? It takes the longest amount of time. Construction is usually almost half the time. So our goal is to make sure none of the details slip through the cracks. In other words, if it is not addressed quickly, the engineer will just put it over on the stack and he'll move on to the next one. I currently have 28 projects in varying phases of test fits, design, due diligence, permitting. And if any one of them has a detail or two that aren't addressed, it's not going to move. Yeah. So it really is true. The devil is in the details. Yeah. And we are all over that. Yeah. And we try our best to make sure that the engineers understand the permitting authorities, and they're all different. Like we have 10 in Houston right now, but one's in the city of Magnolia, one's in the city of Conroe, 3's in the city of Conroe. We have all these different municipalities, and they're all a little different. And so we're all over it to make sure that those details don't slip.
Yeah, one of the common themes you're going to hear about today is just that personal touch, applying pressure, phone calls. Again, with the permitting side, like Howard referenced, sometimes you got to hop in the car and just show up at a city's office, right? And we've actually gone as far, we do, and we'll talk about it in a second, but we do construction management work outside of the state of Texas where we're managing through the permit process. And we've actually flown people out to locations just for, maybe a 30-minute meeting with the municipality, just so they can put a face to the name and they know, hey, there's people out here trying to get this done. When we start talking about construction side, again, it goes without saying that, sometimes dealing with the cities, it takes a lot of pressure. It takes a lot of influence. It takes a lot of pleading and asking and begging and all that. But good. I mean, the phase one side, again, for us, we've got a team that is doing that for Seven Brew for a number of franchisees. And it's like Howard said, one of the most important things that we can do to make sure that a project is successful, right? Getting those early components right, the devil being in the details. Obviously we want to identify any big red flag that we can in the development, pre-construction process rather, that would avoid any big expense during construction, and more so than anything, a big surprise during construction. Because when we talk to Dave here, unfortunately, he's had a lot of surprises, and on the project. And one thing to keep in mind is these aren't long duration projects, right? As you guys watching know, these types of projects are quick, right? And we schedule them very aggressively, so there's not a lot of time to deal with errors when it comes to the plans, errors when it comes to setting up utility accounts. Again, one of the big things that we chase down first, right off the bat when we get a project on our board is the power. If I had to say the number one thing that has tripped us up has been getting power on site.
That's true.
Dave, wanted to kind of kick it over to you real quick. Dave has been here since day one. Personally built, the first 4 or 5 kind of Seven Brews for us. Kicking it off, that first one that we built in Longview, Texas, what kind of stands out to you is learnings, kind of what comes up for you on that first project?
Everything had an issue, right? So what has been a big bane of my existence since that day starting was talking to architects, talking to engineers, talking to developers, talking to owners, talking to everyone involved to say that we need to take this broad scope of stuff that's just scattered and streamline it so we can repeat it faster, which we've done. But it's been a process because every part of that had to be touched, from the geotech underneath, the dirt, all that subsoil compaction, all the way to the hand over the keys, the way we did it, which we've just recently gotten down, I think, pretty good. I think that just a lot of the parts here that we're doing, right, where Howard sits in, where the PMs come in, where Jeremy starts, where I fit in, the alignment of all that. This is a visual representation of all the work that goes into somebody opening that door and saying we're open for business.
Yeah.
But to get to that point, all the parts and pieces from pre-con to that point have to be addressed in a very particular way. Otherwise they grow and they get broad and they go off in their own direction. So it's just keeping all that information in mind has become a priority of mine. And then I guess not really dictating, but teaching that to people around me, that this is how we do this at a high level, is to make sure that we're minimizing mistakes that we know are coming. So for me, learning from Longview was that there was so much available to be fixed. It was just a wealth of opportunity to say, here's where we can do this better, this better, this better. And I think since then, legitimately, we've been working on doing that while building the business, while bringing new customers, while bringing new concepts, hiring new people. For the most part, I feel like we've gotten to the point where we started there and now we're here and we're way more refined, which is reflected in our reputation.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Stuff.
Yeah, it's important that first project in Longview was earlier in the development process. I don't know what store number it was, but it was early in the process. And so at that time, it was the first project in Texas, right? It was one of the only ones that Longview had seen that was a prefabricated building. I definitely want to touch on the fact that all of these projects that we've done with Seven Brew, which I think we're over 50 now that we've been involved with, have all been prefabricated modular buildings. One of the big takeaways, again, that we're going to talk about is just planning on the front side. And then inside of that is power. I mean, that is the number one thing that we deal with. And it's not that it's special to Seven Brew. It's not special to, drive-through only concepts. It's not special to, restaurants or any type of development, right? If you talk to most people that are building or developing anything, getting power to it is important. Where it becomes critical for us is that we got such short time frames, right? We're trying to build these things within 60 days. Most of your power companies, if you've got to set a new pole or you've got to set a new transformer or both, or if there's any other, easement related issues to get power to your site, none of that happens quick, right? We're not talking about a matter of days. Most of the time, we're not talking about a matter of weeks. It's months. It's months. And so, it works against us where, part of what we're trying to deliver to our clients and franchisees and all that is speed, right? We want to expedite getting the project from, site acquisition until we're handing off a set of keys. Well, when you're dealing with a long lead item like power that is months, right? It's simple math to figure out that that's got to start immediately. Immediately in the process. Almost you need to start it before you even have a site locked in, right? Following up on the power conversation, Kevin, who's our PM that's managed a lot of stuff for us in San Antonio and in now East Texas. How would you talk about your experience in San Antonio?
I've had to develop friendships, relationships, whatever you want to call it down there. And that's kind of been what steered us towards getting what we've needed. The unfortunate factor is it shouldn't be that way, but it is. And so it's, gone down to reaching director levels all the way down from the designers and kind of helping us implement what we needed. Because on our end, we've done the legwork on the front end, which is to get it before we even start construction. We have it lined out. We had confirmation, as an example, on one of our recent projects. We had confirmation, written down documentation showing that we're all set. We have approval. We're set to go. We get to the construction phase, and now somebody within internally at that specific utility company raises their hands and say, "We got a question." Well, we're ready to turn this building over in 4 weeks from now, and now there's a question that wasn't there 3 months prior.
Yeah.
All we can do is just kind of keep learning from it, keep updating our process, and at the point that we're at now, we have a lot of personal connections at that specific utility company. That as we move forward through these other projects, what we'll end up doing is we're going to go ahead and get them involved internally with us, reach out to all departments, because there's different departments within that utility company, which is going to be the design team, the actual construction site team, and then just the supervisors that approve all of it. So we are going to get those three entities in that same utility company involved to kind of check off and make sure that they all simultaneously agree on what we got to do.
That particular market that Kevin was talking about is, again, there's a lot of development, right? This is not we're not building in these little sleepy towns where, we're bringing a concept to the table that everybody's, has never heard of or excited about. Now, granted, everybody's excited about, these projects, about 7 Brew and having that come into their town. But the point being, there's other concepts doing the same thing, right? Other big national brands that are coming in, right? So Kevin, you're not the only one knocking on the door of this utility provider, right? There's a lot of other concepts out there that are wanting, speed of getting their power there as well. So what did you learn dealing with that you're going to apply to future projects?
Again, just doing the front end legwork and just asking the questions, as many questions as we can. It's a delay on our end that we saw, but speaking with neighbors and just other similar companies in the area, we got ours, leaps and bounds ahead of where they're at, right?
Yeah.
So we're going out of our way, we're doing what we can, but everyone, we were just, call it 2-3 weeks behind, if you will. Other places, they're 6 to 9 months out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the reality of the situation for them. So we're doing something right. It's just, we're doing what we can with what we got. And that's within that jurisdiction. Taking away from what, I would apply to the oncoming projects is, again, getting those internal people involved, asking them the direct questions, and again, going back and getting that direct sign off from those specific entities, as opposed to just sometimes the lowest level, right? We'll take it to the highest level, get that approval. And we've been a lot more successful than, again, some of the other neighboring companies. Because again, in developments that we've had, there's a bunch of business going up next to us. And there's a reason why we're going up before they are.
Everyone here at this table has mentioned building relationships.
Yeah.
And that's really what this ultimately is we're building relationships everywhere we go, especially in these bureaucracies where there's almost no face-to-face contact. We reach out and make the face-to-face contact. We talk to the folks because those relationships are going to last. We're going to see those people again.
Yeah.
And it's why we're faster, I think, than most of the other guys.
Yeah.
because we build relationships.
A lot of the times you think you're communicating, but you're really not, right? And so we feel like we err on the side of over communication, right? When we do our update meetings, when we do any type of direct communication, whether it be emails, text messages, Teams meetings, Zoom meetings, and all that, we try to include as many people as possible. We have what we call shared consciousness meetings, right? And really, it's just about getting everybody that is a project constituent on a call, on a Zoom meeting, on a Teams meeting, that has a stake in the project, so that they can hear where are we at today, confirm where we're trying to go tomorrow, and what are we trying to do to get there. So another service that we provide to Seven Brew and other clients, for that matter, is construction management, right? So we've got Renee here, who heads up our construction management efforts. I think she's managed somewhere around 20 Seven Brew projects, and I'd like to hear from her kind of how she feels communication and collaboration has played a big role in our success on the construction manager front.
Sure. So like Jeremy said, we've definitely evolved since we first started this, and since I started in 2022. One thing that we learned early on that we always try to do, because we work with different franchisee owners, so just know your ownership group. They have different levels of expectations as far as what our role and our responsibilities are. So just knowing what your client is expecting from you, and then just always trying to exceed the expectation, or at least make sure that you're communicating with them effectively. Like if something comes up, because we have hurdles that we have to overcome all the time throughout the pre-construction and the construction phase. So we are, like Jeremy said, we're really big on communication. So we have weekly meetings, we have everybody on the meeting, vendors that are going to come and install networking or security or kitchen equipment. Whoever's associated with that project is included in our weekly meetings. They don't always show up, but just because they're on the meetings, afterwards, everybody gets a copy of the minutes, they get an updated schedule, we reconfirm install dates, when are we supposed to have power. So everybody that needs to know the status of that project is included in that weekly meeting, and the email that gives the updates of what the current site condition is, and like Jeremy said, where we're going and what our schedule is.
Interesting about these projects, again, Seven Brew, and a lot of other projects are kind of the same way, but these are relatively small projects. And again, like we said, they're fast paced, right? We're trying to get these done in 60 days, on average. But there is an amazing amount of involvement from a lot of different people to make that happen, right? Dave alluded to it earlier, right? There's, there are big teams involved with just building one little coffee shop, right? And so with every project, we've got kitchen equipment vendors, we've got modular building vendors, we've got internet vendors, we've got obviously all the contractors involved, pest control, chemicals, and we're trying to coordinate and keep, I would argue that every project has a team of, maybe about 150 people, if you really think about it, that are engaged at some level to build one of these. And so that's why it's super important to keep everybody moving together at the same pace. So Renee, I want to kick it back over to you. How do you, what do you do to kind of keep everybody in line and moving down the field at the same pace?
If I haven't contacted one of the vendors, I'd say in 2 weeks, like I'm picking up the phone, or probably a week, I'm picking up the phone, calling them, calling their office if they're out of town, just making sure that everybody knows where we're at during the course of construction, and that they're ready to step in and do whatever they need to do at the time that we need them to do it.
So guys, we've talked about our engagement with Seven Brew at all different levels. I want to just kind of go around real quick and is there a story that stands out? Is there something that happened that kind of stands out?
I would say it's Antoine Copperfield, where we had permitting done through Harris County, and was that one of the jobs that we picked up from another, or did we do that from stem to start? We did that.
It was a little bit of both.
It was a little bit of both,
right?
So anyway, there were complications, and Harris County was the permitting authority, and they are enormous bureaucracy. And we kept waiting for the permit, and there was this little detail, that little detail. And so I just got in my car and drove to Harris County and parked out in front of the lobby waiting to get an appointment with these people. And magically, 24 hours later, we got a permit.
Yeah.
And that's a good story, but it took a lot of effort to make it happen. But it's what needed to be done because we were on a deadline. We take the deadlines very seriously.
One of my most memorable moments working on these projects is not naming any names, but we were kind of called out a little bit to see how fast we could build one of the locations. And so it was a friendly, kind of challenge. And we went into one of the projects with a goal in mind. The first time we attempted it, I think we missed it by a day or two, which when we relayed that, it was still a success because it was still one of the fastest 7 brews built to that point, but it wasn't the fastest. And so when we relayed that information, I don't remember exactly what came back, but it was something like, good luck next time. But I don't know, Dave, you want to talk about that Lubbock project where we did set the record. And I think to this day, we might still have the record for the fastest 7 brew built. Not that that's something that we're very proud of it. That's not a standard. We are trying to go fast and do a good job on every project. We're not trying to set a record on every single project.
Yeah, I was told initially a month in on the first one that there was a record that existed. So that lit me up.
Yeah.
The next one, it was like I was committed to it. Everybody was on board and understood what I was doing. And we did it with a green superintendent, a brand new site contractor, who showed up with a mini excavator and a skid steer saying, I got this. It was the coordination. It was the understanding of what we had done at that point.
Yeah.
So to speak more to the overall sort of, 7 brew part of this, the Citadel relationship was, for me, the memorable part was doing that. And I like that because that's an ego thing. It's personal, but it's small and it's fun and it's great. But the relationships, the ability to drive down and get things done, show up in an office.
Yeah.
I feel good knowing that we're building a team, we're building a process that lets us rise above everybody. And I'll beat a record any day. That's the fun part. But I have the ability, the knowledge, the resources, the support to do that. And we all have that with each other. And again, that's what allows us to be at Citadel, operating at a higher level with Citadel.
No, for me, it's been part of the process. I was a little bit newer to the site work when I started with you guys, and so kind of learning the ins and outs of that, working through that. And we do what we got to do. It's been a lot of fun. But for me, like I said, it's kind of like building Legos. It's having fun with it, doing schedules, building those relationships. And so I've learned from the first one, going to the second one, now to the third and fourth one. So it's been real big for me. But again, the site works, some of the stuff I had trouble with initially, I feel like I've evened that out pretty good now. Become a little bit of an expert in certain items like that. The utilities is the thing that I'll kind of keep looking out for, seeing where I got to talk to, what I got to leverage to work. But like I said, building those relationships, having that, working through that, and kind of having those success stories with you guys, Dave, Renee, whoever it might be, on like, hey, this wasn't supposed to work out, but we got it done.
Yeah.
Right. So that's been super rewarding on my end.
We can do so good on the pre-construction and design and development, and when you actually get out there and start digging in the dirt and turning stuff over, there's surprises. Mm-hmm. So there's storm sewer lines that nobody can find, and we're digging all over the place. And so we constantly have to stay focused on just overcoming these unexpected obstacles that happen very often. We've had water lines that weren't there on a project we are doing in Edinburgh now. When they started the site work, they found a swimming pool that nobody knew was there. So there's always going to be just weird stuff that happens, and we have to stay focused on, still trying to make every project a success and keeping everybody else around us and the other members of the project team upbeat and kind of focused, because if we start losing track and we're not managing it, then it can just go way off the radar.
We've spent a good amount of time talking about our efforts with 7 Brew, the history, how we got started, what we've learned, some of the challenges, some of the success stories, and why are we doing all this, right? Listen, a lot of this, we want to put this out there to other concepts, right? There's a lot of other fast-moving, fast-growing, drive-through only concepts that I feel could benefit from our experience. So this is a marketing video. We're pushing this out to you guys. If you're seeing this, we want you to know that over the past few years, working with a really fast-growing concept, we've got a lot of great information. We've got a lot of great experience. that we can bring to the table, right? We've spent hours looking at site plans. We've spent hours looking at the different attributes of a site plan that you might not expect that adds to the success of, a customer getting on site, circulating through, transacting, getting their product and getting off site. Curb radiuses, different types of pavement, parking, different visibility and orientation of the buildings. Listen, we spent hours doing that. We've got a lot of great data on what makes a concept successful. So we can bring that to the table. If you don't need that service, get it. The other side of that we've really learned and got a lot of experience on is the phase 1 and the phase 2, right? What involves due diligence, entitlement work, permitting, kind of taking it from design all the way through ready to start construction, right? We've got an internal team that has built up processes, that has built up relationships with a lot of the cities that you're probably going to go in. We know, we've got personal names and relationships and phone numbers that, we could contact and maybe get something done, because as most everybody knows, the permitting side is the one thing that nobody has a lot of control over. But what we bring to the table is transparency, consistency, and communication, right? There's not going to be any surprises, right? The way we handle and move these projects down the line, you're going to know where you're at any given time. And then from a construction standpoint, we've built up a really good team of experts that know how to get these kind of projects done. We've actually invested a lot of time and money in building out networks in the major markets here in Texas of subcontractors and vendors that are right sized to these kind of projects, right? And also that includes West Texas and East Texas, right? So we've actually developed some pretty good networks to be able to have a faster project delivery. So please reach out. All of our contact information will be part of this. We'd love to look at your projects if our experience and our current systems would add value to your development process. And so thank you very much for listening. Reach out if you have any questions, and we look forward to talking to you guys. Thank you very much.